The world is a global village.
And that's because information travels beyond boundaries.
And on This Morning on ITV,
we guarantee unbiased analysis on topical issues
that will educate you,
entertain you.
So join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Every Sunday to Thursday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on your ultimate news and current affairs program on television. This morning on ITV, TMI. Join us. Thanks again for joining us on the program TMI Monday with yours sincerely. Well, we'll look at the environment, as it were, particularly with some of the global challenges that have been manifesting in the last couple of days. At the international stage, we can't forget in a hurry the plight of people living in Texas with the impact of Hurricane Harvey taking its toll on that state and on that major cities, towns and communities in Texas. Of course, President Donald Trump, over the weekend was in Texas to do some more assessment of the impact of Hurricane Harvey. And then back home in Benue State, and I think in Plateau State, there's also be some very impactful effect of flooding and erosion. All of these we know today are the pangs of global warming, even though there are some other dimension to it, which was highlighted in one of the interviews that I had with a certain gentleman talking about Dennis Ogosi. But today, we just look at what is happening on the global stage, and then we'll cascade into what has been done back here in Edo State to help salvage the flooding menace. With me in the studio is an environmental expert, an environmental consultant, a special and technical assistant to the immediate past commissioner for environment and public utilities, and then of course is now currently with the Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project, an international donor agency intervention project. Of course, today is Environment Monday. I'd like to welcome Mr. Tom Obaseki. Tom, anything joining us on the show?
Thank you, Duke. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, global environmental challenges. Okay, environmental issues, they've always been at the front burner. But it looks like in recent times, the scale and the magnitude of environmental issue has really increased. What is duly responsible for this, in your opinion?
We, as human beings, we don't live in space. You know, we live in a confined area, which is the environment we live in. And because of the challenge and the need for development, man has been desperate to progress in terms of development. But at the same time, unfortunately, we have not been able to marry this with sustainability. So what we are having today is that desire by man to quickly advance, but without a careful balance of how sustainable am I achieving this progress. Whatever I'm using today, will it be available for my children's children to use tomorrow? So what we're having today is a summary of that desperation, that challenge, that urge to make progress, but without a good balance of what we have around us. So that is why you have the challenge of global warming, yes, population growth. We want to build houses. We need wood to roof our houses. We fell down trees, the challenges. So it's a whole vicious circle that we are being faced with today.
Okay, on the international scene, we saw Hurricane Harvey taking its toll on the residents of Texas. That can be described as man-made. That seems to be like a natural disaster, as it were.
When we talk of man-made, well, it appears to be a natural disaster. But the question is that we are not, we have been living on this earth, but we've never had natural disaster of this magnitude.
Okay.
The issue is that because of our careless approach to development, we have caused so much problem with the environment that the intensity and the frequency of these challenges are now beyond our imagination and becoming very catastrophic because we have failed to do what we have to do. Simply said, these are just the impacts of the climate change and global warming, because with this kind of distortion in our environment, you have the challenge of very, very high intensity rainfall, the frequency which they become so short. Yeah. You know, so you find out that everything is becoming very excessive. So we need to start retracing our steps. Luckily for us as a people, we are just at the developmental stage. So we can actually plan ahead such that we are not caught with this web that is happening, particularly in developed economies.
So is this challenge of erosion, erosion, flooding, and all of those environmental issues, is it lack of preparation, or this is natural, and then perhaps the capacity of the facilities or infrastructure to mitigate these environmental challenges is not there?
Okay, it's a combination of everything. One, we have certain things must happen naturally, but what we're concerned about is it happening at what it should be, or we, because of our activities, have intensified this the incidences of environmental challenges. So those are the issues we have to look at. We have to do better planning. It's very, very key. Okay. Let me give you an example. In the project where I work today, it's to redeem most of gully sites in the state. We found out that, you won't believe this, 99% of all the gully erosions are man-made. 99%.
All the gully erosions
are man-made. If you think back, you have one close to you here. Yeah. It wasn't there some years ago. Quinede was not there some years ago. Auchi was not there some years ago. So, but because we were developing, we needed to make roads, and because of the knowledge base then, we were not able to do what we had to do well. So most of those gullies are man-made. So we need to start thinking of, and it's unfortunately, it's like you have a basket and you're putting money into a basket, because if you want to reclaim gully erosions, it's not really a positive thing, in quotes, you know. But it's a challenge. We must resolve this thing. So it's becoming very expensive. So the best thing for us to do is just to do the little things that we need to do to prevent this, because we're spending so much money.
Okay, I remember some time ago, Edo State government embarked on curtailing flood and erosion challenges in the state using the platform of the Stormwater project. But how would you describe the impact of that in curtailing the menace of erosion and flooding in the state?
I think one of the greatest achievements in the last 10 years was that project, for us to really understand where we were. And it may also interest you to know that in the history of this state, we've only had 3 major interventions in the area of flood intervention in the city. That was in the early 70s during the Obamudi administration. The second one came about 13 years later during the Abusali administration, and we needed to wait for another 25 years or thereabouts during the Adams Oshomole administration so we've had this law, you know. So I think the best thing that's happened in the last 10 years was that plan. And the plan made us to understand that we have to treat this thing holistically. It is not enough, because in the city, what really drains your city, what removes the flooding challenges of your city are the storm drains. And the storm water drains are not just the drains that you put by the roadside. Those are the large drains that you can even put 2 vehicles and you can walk in through those drains. Those are the drains that really take flood from your city. But you will need to also have the connections to those drains. So that is where the drains by your roadside
come in.
So you need to have those drains that will now flow through those things, and that will also bring about sustainable development in the sense that you are better protecting your roads, and your roads will last longer.
Okay.
That is why you need to make those drains and take all your water out of the city. So with the stormwater drain, we've made a lot of progress, and I think, I mean, you know how Teacher's House was. The Welling East and West project, I mean, speaks for itself. Today, several years ago, you can't pass that road, but because of the drain, those people are happy. And also, what the study also showed to us then is that we had several catchments, flood catchments. Catchments are like areas where the water in the area will gather. So you need to identify where those boundaries are, and start solving them one after the other, which the state government has also already started implementing.
All right, let's just look at the Stormwater project again. When that project was conceptualized, was it conceptualized against the background as a project that will take care of the flooding and erosion menace in the state, I mean Benin City per se, or it was work in progress by way of maybe tackling some areas and then maybe somewhere along the line some other areas will come on? Because as we speak now, there are still a lot of places that are heavily flooded when it rains. And so you're wondering, we had this project, cost so much, what impact did this project now make on these areas if we still have these flooding problems, erosion problems in some areas in the state?
Yeah, I think you're very correct when you say it's a work in progress. What the Stormwater Master Plan did for the state was to say, let us understand our city, Benin City. It's what the Stormwater Master Plan for Benin City. That takes us to the other chapter. We need Stormwater Master Plan for major other cities. Otherwise, we will still run the risk of having flooding in different parts of the state.
Okay.
But the work that was done was just for Benin City, to save Benin City. Now, like I said, we identified 21 catchment areas. Those are different areas. That is why you are saying now that there are certain areas
that are still heavily flooded.
That you have flooded.
Yeah.
To really go and solve this thing, one, it's not what you can do in one day. It's going to take time, and it's going to take huge resources to do. And by the last estimate, the earlier estimate was over 150 billion naira. I mean, you can imagine how huge that is. So it's a work in progress. We have taken it one step after the other. We have been able to solve Welling East and West. All horror catchments have been taken care of. So there are still pockets of areas, and I think as resources come, the state government will back with that, luckily for us. Yeah,
there's an area that really gives me concern. I mean, the Uselu Share, Tomline, Uselu Market access. Anytime it rains, I mean, you will find water still going into houses. Was it that area was never captured in this stormwater project, or what is the problem in that area that is still heavily flooded each time it rains?
When we say a stormwater solution has been given or made for a place, what it means is that it does not, because sometimes, like I said, with global warming and global change, you have high intensity rainfall. What you should ask yourself is that you remember, well, Duke, that before that solution was done, the water will stay there for weeks.
Okay.
But now it comes, within some few hours, it disappears. So that is actually what we should be looking at. The water, it does not mean that rain, like I told you, because of extreme weathers, we have such challenges, you know, but because of that solution, it doesn't, the devastating effect is very, very low, you know. So you find that those things don't happen all the time. It's not with every rain, you know. So it's once in a, for example, if you have rainfall falling for like continuously with high intensity for 1 week, you will imagine what will happen, you know. But the issue is that within hours, the whole rain disappears.
Okay. If you just join us, you're watching TMI Monday with yours sincerely, Sonny Duke Okosun. Well, today is Environment Monday. The reason is not far-fetched because all that we've been talking about is how we can protect the environment, make it cleaner, make it better for everyone to continue to enjoy it. And we've been looking at the impact of Hurricane Harvey and other global environmental challenges, whether back home, whether in the US, whether in the UK, whether in Europe, whatever it is. These challenges are just getting bigger by the day, and it looks like even though we are responding to it, but they come at a very, very high capacity or intensity that sort of sometimes dwarfs whatever effort is being made to curtail the challenge. And with us here in the studio is an environmental consultant, Mr. Tom Obaseki. Tom, once again, thank you for joining us on the program. And now, quickly, as we begin to go on a distance on this discussion, in the last couple of years, we've also seen new severe environmental challenges coming up. I mean, gullies are coming up. There are some areas that were never flooded before. You find floods there. In Benin City, for example, 2 quick points. Around the Ubo, just immediately after University, I'm sure as we were coming just now you saw it.
That's right.
There was never flood at that spot before, but now it's massively flooded. When it rains, I mean, I have done 2 programs on that spot on my Environment Watch program, because I'm just wondering how all of a sudden we have flood there. Looks like we solved the problem at Tomline. Okay, and now it has shifted. So this seems to be having, is this also the human factor coming into play in midwifing these new environmental challenges springing up?
Like I told you earlier on, one of the major causes of this is development. If you look at these areas you are talking about, one, there's no stormwater solution in this area. And I also know that this area was also captured in the Stormwater Master Plan. The catchment is there. And if you look at the particular example you gave, you see that what is happening on the road is people try to protect the water from coming to them. That is why they just raise a barrier.
But do they have option? Would you blame them?
What I said is just try to establish what the situations are.
Okay.
So we need to build more stormwater solution because of development. Let me give you an example. If you think very well and look back, you will notice that all GROAs, government reserve areas, all over the country, we've traveled around the country, before now, never had side drains because they were very low density areas. They never had fences. Water could find its own level. They had large space area for natural percolation. So they were designed like that. But with time, we started abusing it. An acre land, for example, is partitioned and sold to more people. The people come to build, they interlock the floor. So all this water have to. And if you see the new design of our roofs now, it's so sharp. So it therefore means that as water comes, the speed
it goes down.
It goes down. So if water has more power and it does so many havoc. If you also go to areas where we have also built drains, missionaries, for example, but because of our habits, we were talking of street trading earlier. Street trading, throw a top of rubbish on the floor, the water, the rain comes, it blocks even the entrance to the side drains, to the extent that if you drive on Mission Road when there's rain, it's flooded. That is our habit. That's our fault. That's our problem. The government has done what they have to do, but we need to also, as human beings, like I said, it's everything. At the end of the day, the challenge of environmental challenges we are facing today as a people has to do with us. We have to change our habits. While we recognize the responsibility of government to provide infrastructure, it is our also responsibility to protect those infrastructure and to make them work for us.
Okay, it's our responsibilities to protect infrastructures and then make them work for us. I always say that if you want the environment to continue to supply all your needs, because the environment supplies all our needs. The food we eat, the water that we drink, and a whole lot of things that we do, they come from the environment. And the only way the environment can be sustainable, it's if you make efforts to protect the environment. You avoid dumping your refuse in the drainages, which ultimately will block those drainages And then if the water can't flow, the water will come back to you. Your house will be flooded. Properties will be destroyed, and a whole lot of things. I'm always amazed how we find people who would build on areas that normally will retain water, or drainages where water will flow through. And then at the end of the day, when there is a flooding challenge, they call on government. They blame government. Exactly. I mean, isn't this plain nonsense?
Yeah, like I said, we need to really change our habits, because we are the human factor that operates within the sphere of nature.
Okay.
So the more we handle this nature around us, then we're able to make it sustainable. Because what we should be concerned about is really sustainability in every action we take. Like I said, we're just developing. We need to plan better and look at it, the bigger picture, okay, so that whatever infrastructure we are putting in place, we are putting in place sustainable infrastructure. Little habits like switching off our lights reduces carbon emission.
Yeah.
Planting of trees. That's why I'm so happy that the governor today is talking about clean, green Benin City of Edo State. You won't believe this, that the carbon dioxide is the most implicated gas that is affecting this. And carbon dioxide is the output from fuel activity, fossil fuel burning. By the time we fell trees, because we take in oxygen, yeah, and we give out carbon dioxide, the trees need carbon dioxide to survive and give us oxygen to breathe. So by the time we fell all these trees around us, we are creating and increasing the carbon dioxide load for no trees to take off, yeah, and no oxygen for us. So we need to have this balance, and I believe that environmental issues are issues that we need to start looking at from the formative age of a child. Primary education, secondary education, they need to really understand these little things and the issue of sustainability, because we need to spend or use wisely so that our future, our children's children, will also have those resources to use for themselves.
All right, just a beautiful way to cap up this chat with Mr. Tom Obaseki. He's an environmental consultant looking at some of the challenges we're having at the moment with the environment, whether at the global stage or at the local stage. But in all of these, there is a human factor. And that human factor, if we're able to checkmate that human factor, you be rest assured that all of these other challenges will be a thing of the past. Just like you said, the human factor is so huge. Now, take for example, a place like the Igbosa Housing Estate. I've been there. In one of my editions of Environment Watch, we focused on the gully at Igbosa Housing Estate. You'll be amazed. Now, the neighbors there, the resident there, told me how someone who is supposed to be an engineer build a factory or some sort on the only semi-drainage or drain out point, yeah, where water normally will go to, built there. And then all effort to get the guy to remove his structure there failed. Now, from just a minor problem that would have been addressed is now, from the last count, about 36 houses have caved in. And there are so many others that are just on the verge of caving in because we just don't want to do things normally. But there's also a feeling that government has a fair share of this problem, because in many of these communities that we have, you really don't find structures in place by way of regulation on the part of government to have these cities or these communities well laid out or planned out, to ensure there are channels through which water can flow and then bring some level of sanity to these communities.
Yes, I want to also agree with you that before now, those issues have also been there.
Okay.
Like I said, we need to do better planning.
Okay.
We need to plan our cities, because we don't need to choke our cities. Some of these things that are happening in developers, like I said, we're just developing, so we have the opportunity. You don't necessarily need to build everywhere.
In your compound?
Yes, you don't need to build, not even your compound.
In your community?
You need to have green areas. You need to have green beds. You can even have some element of intra-city forest, you know. Somewhere, I mean, it can be the lowest point, for example, that you don't just go there to build. But because of over these years, we're not doing that, you know. So we find out that people were just selling land, building, and most people build without even plans, you know. So once we start doing that, you see, at the end of the day, like I said, Duke, it comes back to us.
Yeah, that's the most painful part of it all.
Yeah. It's just our habits, our decisions as individuals that complicate this matter. So it comes back to us. While government is doing their own part, we have to do our own part.
Okay, so your part is to protect the environment and avoid clogging drainages so you don't have flood coming back at you. When it comes, I mean, the effects are usually very, very devastating. So protect the environment so the environment can continue to sustain you. That's our take-off point on this discussion. Tom, many thanks for coming on the show. I hope next time you're in town, we invite you, oblige us on the show.
Anytime.
Thank you so much. Well, it's the TMI Monday. When we return, we'll be going to the Niger Delta. Of course, you know, in the Niger Delta, the core Niger Delta, there are a whole lot of environmental challenges. And of course, the Ijo Youth Congress has always been at the vanguard, you know, projecting all of these issues to get government attention and also get the attention of major stakeholders in the region to ensure that all of these issues are adequately addressed.